At first, I just thought he was tired. He's a man, after all, getting older, but always trying to appear strong. When he coughed, he said it was just allergies. When he started eating less, he claimed he just wasn't hungry in the morning. I was used to his silence, so I didn't think much of it, until I noticed his eyes were getting dimmer. His hands slightly trembled each time he poured tea, and the strangest thing, he didn't enjoy going out to the garden anymore. There are signs so small, so subtle, we assume they're just part of getting old. But if I had known earlier, maybe things would have turned out differently. In this video, I want to share 7 quiet warning signs my husband once experienced. Things that seemed harmless, but were actually urgent messages from his body. If you live with an aging loved one, or if you've noticed some of these signs in yourself, please stay until the end of this video, because sometimes one small change today could save an entire lifetime. Hello, and welcome to Senior Fit. If you're someone who is caring for an aging loved one, or if you're growing older yourself, this story is for you. What I'm about to share comes straight from the heart. It's not a textbook explanation. It's not a warning label on a pill bottle. It's what I lived. It's what I witnessed. And maybe it's what you or someone you love is quietly going through right now. Sign 1. Sudden loss of balance. I remember clearly. One winter morning last year, he had just gotten out of bed when he suddenly staggered a few steps and grabbed onto the edge of the dresser. I turned to look, startled, but he just smiled and said, "Probably just lay down too long. The blood hasn't reached my brain yet." Hearing that, I felt reassured. It's normal, I thought. When you're older, feeling dizzy after getting up isn't unusual. That's all I thought it was. But then it didn't just happen once. One day at the supermarket, he was pushing the cart ahead of me when he suddenly stopped, swayed a little, and gripped the handle like he was about to fall. I rushed to steady him. Again, he brushed it off. "Probably just slipped a little," he said. I was half convinced, half worried. He was never the type to admit when something was wrong. I didn't want to push him. I didn't want to upset him. And honestly, I blame myself for not being more firm, until the day he nearly fell while stepping down from the front porch. I was watering the plants when I heard a noise, turned around, and saw him teetering, one foot already off the step. He grabbed the railing just in time. If he hadn't, he could have broken a bone. Or worse. My heart was pounding. I started researching. I found out that frequent loss of balance in older adults can be a sign of something serious, possibly related to the brain, nervous system, or inner ear. It's not just about aging. We went to the doctor. After tests and an MRI, the doctor said he had signs of reduced blood flow to the brain, and they needed to monitor for potential mini-strokes. If it hadn't been caught early, it could have led to a full-blown stroke, something I don't even want to imagine. I used to think I was taking great care of him, but I ignored the signs that were right in front of me because they were so small, because I was used to seeing him as strong. I convinced myself everything was fine. I'm not sharing this to blame myself or seek sympathy. I'm sharing this to remind anyone in my shoes. Don't overlook those unsteady steps. Sometimes, just one fall is enough to change everything. Sign 2. Difficulty swallowing. At first, it was the seaweed soup, his favorite. I cooked it like always, even simmered it longer because the weather was chilly that day. But he only took a few spoonfuls before putting down his chopsticks. Feels a little scratchy in the throat today. Maybe you used too much garlic, he said. I didn't think much of it. I told him I'd make it milder next time. But in the days that followed, he only ate foods that were really soft. Everything else, he'd take a few bites and stop. One afternoon, I made chicken soup, the one he always called our house specialty. He only managed half a bowl before stopping. I noticed he was swallowing slowly and sometimes seemed to choke a bit. I asked, and he said, "My throat's a little dry. Maybe I haven't been drinking enough water." I believed him. He said it so gently, but something inside me started to feel uneasy. This was a man who used to eat heartily, suddenly slowing down, picking at food, avoiding anything chewy, even asking me to make the porridge thinner than usual. I began to research. I found that difficulty swallowing can be a warning sign of serious conditions, from esophageal issues to mini strokes affecting the muscles involved in swallowing, even early signs of throat cancer. I broke out in goosebumps. We went to the doctor. They ran a scope and imaging. Thankfully, there was no major damage, but there were signs of esophagitis and chronic acid reflux, causing inflammation and swelling in his throat. The doctor warned, left untreated, the lining of the throat could change, possibly leading to dysplasia and increased risk of cancer. That hit me hard. I sat in the waiting room, watching him through the glass of the endoscopy room and thought, how did I let it get this far? Because he didn't complain. Because I didn't want to bother the doctor. But I've learned something. Sometimes the illness isn't in the pain, it's in the silence. Sign 3. Changes in personality. He used to be a quiet man, but gentle, thoughtful, listened more than he spoke. But then something changed. He began snapping at me over little things. Why do you keep asking me that? I said I'm fine. At first, I thought it was the cold weather or pain in his joints. But it got worse. He stopped watching the news, stopped talking to the grandkids. Some days, he wouldn't say a word, just stared into the sky. One day, I asked if he was okay. Silence is better, he said, and something inside me cracked. I brought it up to the doctor. He asked if my husband had been forgetting things or losing interest in things he used to enjoy. I said yes. They ran tests and confirmed he showed early signs of mild cognitive impairment. The same diagnosis we'd heard earlier, now progressing. What struck me most was this. The first sign wasn't memory loss. It was personality change. He wasn't mad at me. He wasn't tired of life. He was fighting something inside he couldn't explain. And I should have been the first to notice, not the one tiptoeing around his outbursts. If someone you love suddenly becomes withdrawn or irritable, don't just blame aging. Sometimes, the brain is trying to tell you something through behavior, not words. Sign 4. Mysterious bruises. One morning, while folding laundry, I saw a bruise on his arm. It was round, dark purple, the size of a coin. What? What's this, Pua? I asked. He looked down, surprised. Maybe I bumped into the bed frame. I didn't even notice. That would have made sense if it had only been one. But a few days later, there were more. One on his thigh, one on his shoulder, another on his lower back. He couldn't remember how they got there. I started quietly taking photos, tracking them. They appeared in places you don't normally bruise from daily life. Some were faint, others deep and angry looking. I sent one of the photos to our niece, who's a nurse. She messaged back quickly. He needs blood tests. We went in. The results revealed signs of thinner blood and mild liver dysfunction. The doctor explained that certain medications he was on, combined with age, had reduced his blood's ability to clot, and his skin was thinner than ever. Even small bumps could cause deep bruises. But more worryingly, internal bruising was now a serious risk. That day, I realized how fragile he had become. A man who used to carry bags of rice on one shoulder, now bruised by a bump into the kitchen table. Since then, I check his body gently during bath time. I've learned that bruises are the body's way of whispering, "I'm struggling." If you see mysterious bruises on someone you love, don't assume they're from clumsiness. It could be the body crying out for help from the inside. Sign 5. Falling asleep too easily. He had always been a routine sleeper. Lights out by 10, up by 6, never a problem. But then I noticed he began dozing off after breakfast. Then, after lunch. Then, while reading. Then, while talking to me. At first, it seemed harmless. Just a nap, he said. But they weren't naps. They were sudden, unplanned shutdowns. One moment, he'd be mid-sentence. The next, eyes closed. I once found him asleep holding a spoon. Another time, sitting upright on the porch, eyes shut, lips slightly parted. It scared me. We went to a sleep specialist. After an overnight sleep study, they found moderate obstructive sleep apnea. He wasn't breathing properly at night. His oxygen levels dropped repeatedly, preventing deep sleep. His body was exhausted, even if his mind didn't realize it. The specialist said untreated apnea raises the risk of stroke, memory loss, heart failure. We got a CPAP machine, made small dietary changes, elevated his sleeping posture. Within weeks, the change was incredible. He became more alert, less moody, more like himself. So if someone you love starts sleeping through the day, don't assume they're just tired. Look deeper. The real issue may lie in how they're sleeping at night. Sign 6. Wounds that wouldn't heal. He scraped his shin on the garden fence. It looked small. I cleaned it, applied ointment, covered it, but a week later, it was still there. Still red. Still raw. Then a cut on his hand refused to close. Then one on his elbow. I started to feel something wasn't right, so I took him to the doctor. They ran tests. The diagnosis? Pre-diabetes and signs of poor circulation. The wounds weren't healing because blood flow to his extremities was impaired. His body wasn't delivering enough nutrients or oxygen to rebuild tissue. The doctor said, if left untreated, these wounds could become infected, even led to ulcers. I remember sitting in the clinic, holding his hand, thinking, this could have been so much worse. Now, I treat even the tiniest wound on him with care. I check his skin daily, not out of fear, but because I've learned that in aging bodies, healing is a battle, and small wounds can be the front lines of something deeper. Sign 7. Shortness of breath. I used to love watching him walk in from the garden. His shirt slightly damp from sweat, cheeks flushed, smile wide. But then he started coming in slower, breathing heavier, sitting down right away. I'm just a little winded, he'd say. But it wasn't just after gardening. It was after making tea, after taking a shower, even after brushing his teeth. I noticed he started sleeping more upright, propped up by pillows. It helps my digestion, he said, but I knew We went to a cardiologist. The results showed early stage heart failure. His heart wasn't pumping blood efficiently, so fluid was building up in his lungs. The shortness of breath wasn't just tiredness, it was his body fighting to keep oxygen flowing. We adjusted his diet, added light exercises, changed medications, and now every breath he takes, I don't take for granted. Shortness of breath, even without visible exertion, is never something to ignore. If your loved one starts breathing heavier for no reason, get it checked. One small symptom can be the voice of a heart that's quietly giving in. Final words. Listen before it's loud. I've shared 7 signs, 7 whispers from the body, 7 moments I nearly missed. Looking back, I wish I had asked more questions, looked a little deeper, believed my gut the first time I noticed something odd. If you're caring for someone aging, or aging yourself, please remember this. The body speaks in whispers before it screams. Don't wait for the scream. A stumble, a cough, a yawn, a mood swing. None of them are too small to matter. Ask questions. Be curious. Be present. Sometimes, one conversation, one checkup, one gesture of love can prevent something irreversible. If this story helped you in any way, I hope you'll share it. Like the video. Subscribe to Senior Fit. Because together, we can notice more, care better, and make the aging journey a little more gentle. Thank you for staying with me till the end. From my heart to yours, take care. Truly.